I've read analysis of the hero's journey. Like I'm talking about, like especially over here. I guess you know this one right here, the writer's journey.
Oh, Christopher Vogler.
Yeah,
yeah, I got that one.
Okay, and he uses examples of the some same stories you have, but as
hero's journeys.
So how do we, or should we be reanalyzing those stories that have been traditionally said? Well, like I expect even Wizard of Oz. I mean, he talks about Wizard of Oz being hero's journey all the time.
Well, they seemed like the hero's journey. They simulated the hero's journey, but I think archetypally they are different. They're not exactly the same thing. That's why I call it a fantastical maze at home. In the book, that's what I call it. Fantastical mazes at home, where they appear to be these elaborate outward journeys, but they're not. They're explorations or daydreams within the native culture, and that's why the imagery and objects around the heroine are still her native culture, maybe in a bizarre way. But some stories also, I think, are mixtures. A lot of them have some archetypes from the hero's journey and some from the heroine's labyrinth. In fact, the Matrix. When I watch the Matrix, I'm like, this is half hero's journey, like clearly, and then it's half heroine's labyrinth. Like it follows certain themes from the heroine's labyrinth. So, yeah, I think for me, I reanalyze. So, should we relook at? Yes, because it's helpful. That's why we should do it. I think it's because it's helpful. I've relooked at things and I've gotten new ideas and thoughts because I relooked at them. So I think it's very useful to relook at things and see what else you might shake loose out of the tree, you know?
Okay, we got some questions coming in, but let me just follow up on that then. That it seems like to me then you are very big on in the hero's journey when you go to the other world.
Yes.
It seems like then you appear to be very big on the other world being a very physical relocation and journey. Whereas yes. I think previously I would have been willing to accept the other world as something much more metaphorical, like or potentially a metaphorical other world.
Right.
But you're saying that the physicality of this is an important distinction between the heroine and the hero.
I do, because I think it means something to go to the other world for the warrior-oriented hero's journey. You're not going to go to the other world unless you're attempting to confront something very, very dangerous. Whereas the heroine isn't necessarily facing that. There's not a militancy to it. So the other world, if it stays in the native culture and is bizarre or outlandish, I think it can be metaphorical, like Alice in Wonderland. You know, that's in her backyard. But the aspects of it are outlandish and you know, bizarre, you know, maybe psychotropic. But yeah, it is more metaphorical. So I think depending on what you're aiming to achieve, what your hero or what your main character, what they're attempting to confront determines, in my opinion, whether it's a genuine hero's journey outward to the underworld or whether it's a exploration into the bizarre, exotic aspects of the native culture. That's my take. Well, you know, what is your hero? What are they trying to set out to do? I think that's essentially the question. Is the challenge to the hero, to the lead character, the native culture, or is the challenge something other, something beyond the native culture? I think that's kind of
that's the distinct
factor.
Okay, James asks, I can't bring this up, but I'll read it to you.
Sure.
And if you need it to say it again, I'll be happy to say it again. So James says, question 1, if home is a prison or confining, isn't home just the culture of the protagonist and experiencing the culture of their society, the other world? Isn't home the culture of the protagonist and experiencing the culture of their society, the other world? Is it not a more local? Well, okay, so is it not a more local version of the elements of the hero's journey?
Yeah, I think that's a similar question to what you just asked.
Yeah, I think it is.
So it can be. Again, I think the ultimate question is the protagonist, is there conflict with the native culture itself, or is there conflict something that's beyond the native culture? If it's something that's really outside the native culture and that's threatening the native culture, then that other world will probably be alien, foreign, machine-like, you know, exotic, otherworldly. If it's really the native culture that is the main problem for that protagonist, then you might have metaphorical a metaphorical otherworld that's really just an illusion of the native culture itself, like Wizard of Oz. That's a perfect example. She never really left home, and all the characters are the people in her home society. She never left her native culture, so she's working something out in terms of her conflict with the native culture through this illusion. Remember, Dorothy wanted to go somewhere over the rainbow. She wanted to go somewhere else. She wanted out, and this illusion is her daydream of getting out. And her conclusion of this daydream is there's no place like home. Better to just stay home. So that, believe it or not, Wizard of Oz honors the native culture's claim to the hero in Sacred Fire. You think you want adventure, but really there's no place like home is the message in that. So it honors the native culture. So that's my view, is depending on the protagonist and what they're setting out to resolve determines whether you're really going into the underworld physically into a faraway place, or if it's an allegorical otherworld that is helping you work out, or your character work out, a conflict within the native culture.
Okay. How about this? If home is a prison, then why the invasion of home? At the start of the story, the heroine wants to leave, but toward the end is invaded. Why would she care?
Well,
Does
it's
she
still her
maybe need
home.
to establish a new home at a beat earlier in the story?
Right. Well, for the heroine, home is two things. It's a place. It's her safe place. It's where she grew up. It's where her parents or people she trusts live. It's where she passes time. So even if home is oppressive, there's still going to be elements of home that are found only at home. You will never find these anywhere else. So there's still a sense of sanctuary there on some level. Even Rapunzel in Tangled, she hates it. She's held prisoner. It is a prison, and yet she's painting. She's watching the Lantern Festival. She's talking to her friend the chameleon. God, what was his name? Pascal? Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, but she's doing a lot at home. So, the heroine has found a way to make home her home, but she still desires to leave it. So the issue is, when that little bit of safe space is invaded, it's an archetypal terror. Like I said, I remember being a kid watching the Terminator attack the police station, and I was just like, holy beep. I was like, oh my God, like even there you're not safe. So there's something primal. There's a primal terror to having that place invaded by someone you oppose. So even though the home is a prison, it's much worse facing a tyrannical invasion of that space from someone who means you harm. So in that contrast, that's still worse, home as battleground, than home as captivity. Captivity is preferable to complete annihilation in some sense.
Well, it also makes me wonder if during the intervening part of the story, when I got to get out of here, I'm leaving,
Sure.
Whatever, that part of that is to realize there's some value in what was there. And so when it's threatened.
Well, it's still your place, and I call them archetypal entendres. I always look for something primal in the real world that connects to us on a primal level when we're watching a humanized version of it. And I think we've all had this even in dreams. Do you ever have a dream where someone's coming up close and you're terrified and you're staying still, you're breathing heavy, your eyes are closed, and you hope that whatever's there doesn't see you as it passes? It's terrifying. This is a primal fear. So here's that primal fear come to life in front of our heroine. She's going to be terrified. It's scary when someone enters your home. Even if you thought home is a terrible place, it's not worse than this minotaur coming up close in an effort to either capture or destroy you or convert you in some way. So I still think that the primal terror of home as battleground supersedes the more maturity-seeking or adventure-seeking side to the adventure-seeking side to the immature heroine. I think that's purely archetypal as well, but I think this has a terror level that is up at the top of that scale.